My name is Elias. I am 24 years old, and I work as a night shift security guard at a water treatment plant on the edge of town. I am a simple person. I don't believe in ghosts, I don't have an overactive imagination, and I usually spend my shifts watching downloaded movies or eating sandwiches in my booth. The plant is a massive complex of concrete tanks, metal pipes, and gravel paths. At night, the only sound is the constant low hum of the pumps. It is a lonely job, but it pays well because nobody else wants to be out here at 3 a.m. This story happened last Tuesday. It was the dead of night, that specific time when the world feels like it has stopped breathing. At 2 a.m., I had to do my first walking perimeter check. I grabbed my heavy flashlight and my radio. The air was cold and damp. I started at the north gate. My flashlight beam was a solid white circle cutting through the dark. Everything looked normal. The heavy steel chains were locked. The perimeter fence was intact, but as I turned the corner toward the aeration tanks, I smelled something. It wasn't the usual chemical smell of chlorine or the earthy scent of treated water. It smelled like old copper, like blood that had been sitting in the sun. I stopped. I scanned the area with my light. Is someone there? I called out. My voice felt small against the hum of the machines. There was no answer. I told myself it was probably a dead animal in the brush. I finished my round and went back to the guard shack. I locked the door behind me. I didn't realize it then, but my hands were shaking, just a little bit. I sat down and tried to focus on my phone, but I couldn't. About 20 minutes later, a light flickered on my control panel. Motion detected, Zone 4, the underground maintenance tunnel. Zone 4 is a long, narrow concrete hallway that runs beneath the main tanks. It is accessible only by a heavy iron hatch. No one goes down there at night. There are no animals down there. It is a sealed environment. I stared at the blinking red light. My heart started to beat faster. I checked the security cameras. The screen for Zone 4 was just static. It happened sometimes with the old wiring, but the timing felt wrong. I had to check it. If a pipe had burst or if a valve was leaking, it was my job to report it. I grabbed my keys and headed back out into the dark. The walk to Zone 4 felt longer than usual. The hum of the pumps sounded different, heavier, like a rhythmic thumping. When I reached the iron hatch, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The hatch was unlocked. I knew for a fact I had locked it during my 8 p.m. startup check. I pulled the heavy handle. The metal groaned. I pointed my flashlight down the ladder. The light didn't seem to reach the bottom. It was as if the darkness down there was thicker, swallowing the beam. I climbed down. Each step on the metal rungs echoed. When my boots hit the concrete floor, the smell of copper was overwhelming. It was so strong I wanted to gag. I started walking down the tunnel. The walls were sweating with condensation. I stopped. The sound came from behind me. It sounded like a hard object hitting the concrete. I spun around, shining my light. Empty. Hey, security! I shouted. My voice bounced off the walls, repeating security, security, security. I turned back around to continue walking, and that's when I saw it. About 20 feet ahead of me, laying right in the middle of the floor, was a single work glove. It was mine. I checked my belt. My spare glove was missing. How did it get 20 feet in front of me? I hadn't been this far into the tunnel yet. I picked up the glove. It was soaking wet. Not with water. It was thick and dark. I didn't stay to investigate. Logic left me. Every instinct in my body told me to run. I turned and sprinted back toward the ladder. As I ran, my flashlight beam swung wildly. For a split second, the light hit a recessed alcove in the wall. I saw a face. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a monster. It was a man. He was wearing a dark, grease-stained jumpsuit. He was crouched in the corner like an animal, but it was his eyes that froze my blood. They weren't angry or crazy. They were wide, terrified, and staring past me at something behind me. He didn't move. He didn't try to hurt me. He just put a finger to his lips. I didn't stop. I scrambled up the ladder, pushed the hatch open, and slammed it shut. I turned the deadbolt and leaned my back against it, gasping for air. Then I heard it. From the other side of the heavy iron door, 3 slow, deliberate hits against the metal. Then a voice. It sounded exactly like mine. It had my pitch, my accent, my breath. "Is someone there?" the voice asked from under the ground. I didn't go back to the guard shack. I ran straight to my car in the parking lot. I locked the doors and started the engine. I should have called the police immediately, but my brain was stuck in a loop. That was my voice. That was my voice. I looked at the main gate. It was still locked. No one could have entered the facility without cutting the fence or using a key. I sat in my car with the high beams on, watching the entrance to the plant. At 4:15 a.m., the motion sensor lights near the main office snapped on. Nothing was there. Then, the lights at the warehouse snapped on. Something was moving through the plant, triggering the sensors one by one, heading toward the parking lot. It was moving slowly. I put the car in gear. As I backed out, my headlights swept across the glass front of the main office. Inside the lobby, standing perfectly still behind the glass, was the man in the jumpsuit. Except he wasn't looking at me anymore. He was smiling. And he was holding my radio. I drove. I didn't stop until I reached a gas station 10 miles away with bright fluorescent lights and other people. The police went to the plant an hour later. They found the hatch to Zone 4 wide open. They found the man in the jumpsuit too. He was a former employee who had gone missing 3 weeks prior. He was hiding in the crawl spaces. But when they found him, he couldn't speak. His vocal cords had been surgically severed. He couldn't have been the one who spoke to me through the door. They never found anyone else on the property. I quit that job the next morning. I don't work nights anymore. I don't like the silence. And I don't like the dead of night. Sometimes, when I'm at home and it's very quiet, I think about that tunnel. I think about the thing that stole my voice. And then, the phone rings. I don't answer it anymore. Because I know that if I do, I'll hear myself on the other end, asking if anyone is there.